Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we can be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. And welcome to another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zhu and P. Bush. How are you fellas doing?
Doing well, man. Bears coming off another win, man. That's what, 3 in a row now. I mean, not too shabby against the bad. Got to beat the bad teams, right? So you can't be
and
pulling.
They embarrassed them. They embarrassed them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. See, that's the thing. People say now they beat teams. Yeah, but the Bears would have only won that by probably a pick six in years past. Would have been that difference maker. But they whooped over there in London, man, and kind of an interesting fantasy week. Bye weeks really starting to come into play for a lot of people. Ended up splitting my leagues 2-2 yet again. Sorry, Zhu, had to take him down and push him down to the bottom 2 of the league, man.
Fantasy football, man. These injuries during the games, and those hurt the most. Marvin Harrison, concussed, man, concussed. Don't know how long he's going to be out. Obviously, Malik Neighbors' concussion knocked him out for a couple of weeks. So it could be a couple of weeks for these guys. So, man, these injuries before, and my goodness, some of these surprising games that happened during the year. My goodness, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I've never been more shocked in my entire life for a score. Like, I thought it was going to be a shootout, like an absolute shootout. Oh, it was a shootout on one side. The other side was just getting massacred. So a lot of surprise. But yeah, fantasy football, man. It's hurting a little right now, man. It's hurt. I'm dreaming about fantasy football. I was like, Dontavian Wicks got 2 touchdowns. He got 25 fantasy points. Nope, it didn't happen. Man. I needed to win this week in the home league, and I failed. I failed miserably. I've lost 5 straight. I don't think I've ever lost 5 straight in my entire lifetime of playing fantasy.
A lot of that is unluck.
Oh my Lord! But these past 2 weeks been a slaughter, an absolute slaughter. My team has not shown up. Oh, I gotta make another trade, man.
Here we go.
Christ. I'm so sick of this team right now. So,
well, at least you got the Bulls to start watching tomorrow, man.
Yeah,
you can start keep
Happy
up
NBA,
with man. Lonzo's first game tomorrow.
I saw that Bleacher Report. They had the pictures and the the preseason media photo shoots, whatever. They had those rolled up on all the major Bleacher Report, the BR Kicks, any page that is affiliated with basketball. They definitely had Lonzo's picture up there, so everybody's rooting for his bounce back. And in terms of fantasy football, it's definitely one of those weeks where you better start looking at the waiver wire. Seeing who you can get off of there. For me, I need to find a nice tight end that can maybe supplant and give me some points that are similar to Jake Ferguson. But like I said, with tight end, man, if everybody else is doing their job, tight end just needs to give me 8 to 10 points. So hopefully I'll be able to support Jake Ferguson being out and getting ready to at least get to 5-2 in my main league. So with that, fantasy football is always a focus of this podcast. But right now, if people have noticed, it's the middle of October and the NBA is here. Full disclosure, I really haven't been watching any full-time preseason games. Just been seeing clips on Twitter or clips on YouTube and things of that nature. So I wanted to ask the guys that what we normally do around this time is I wanted to get some predictions on the conferences itself, whether it's the Eastern or Western Conference, and what their predictions would be towards being the finals in both of those conferences. So we're going to start with the East. And P. Bush, who are you thinking is 2 of the teams that you could possibly see in that conference finals?
In the East, man. Well, I think we can all lock in the Boston Celtics as one of those 2, barring any major injuries. Kind of like it's a bit of the Chiefs Invitational. Yeah, I know
they do live in the conference finals,
but they live in the conference finals, right? It is the Celtics Invitational, so I'm pretty much locking them in there. Great coaching, great GM, great players. They're just going to kind of keep it consistent, like I said, unless Tatum or Brown gets a major injury. I think that would be the only hiccup. And even then, they'd probably still be a relevant team just based on how wide open the East is. A team I'm completely off of this year, not as a sub 500 team, but Milwaukee Bucks, man, I think their window is fully passed. I mean, Chris Middleton can't stay healthy. Giannis can only do so much. They're not the 2021 team anymore. right? I think that they won their championships, like you always say. The city will be happy for probably 15 years since that championship, and then they'll start getting some pressure again to win. So that's kind of a big name team that we have definitely talked about in years past being contenders. This is kind of the first year I'm now even really considering them. So the other two teams I'm kind of deciding between are the Knicks and the Sixers. I know you could talk Pacers, Cavs, but I kind of put them in that middling category. Cavs potentially, just depending on their Jared Allen and Mobley combination. Can they stay healthy, etc. But with the Sixers, man, I know we scratched this topic, but I think this is a like they have to make the conference finals, man. There's no chance. Like, I mean, since 2018, they've been relevant, right? That's kind of when the process came to fruition. Playoffs were made. They have not made a conference finals in the East, even though the Miami Heat are coming out being bums in the 8 seed in years past and making freaking finals, right? So, I mean, I think with the addition of Paul George, they got rid of Tobias Harris. They don't have James Harden there anymore, as we know. Can he mesh well with Maxey and Embiid? I think so, Zoo. I think he's a great third option, especially at his age. He's not the defender that he once was, but he can still provide great, solid perimeter defense. And then, I mean, on the Knicks side, man, I know we're going to talk about the West in a minute, but, we mentioned the Cat trade a couple weeks ago when it first happened, and the loss of Dante DiVincenzo could be interesting. Mikal Bridges is Mikal Bridges, right? They got Brunson, obviously have Cat. Loss of Hartenstein, I know we mentioned that as a big loss, kind of a quiet loss at the same time in the offseason, especially on the defensive side, because we know, I mean, Mitchell Robinson, top 5 Band-Aid in the league, man, top 5 Band-Aid in the league. So, I think if Bridges and Brunson are a top-notch backcourt and they can mesh well together and they can actually keep Cat engaged, playing defense and not fighting Tom Thibodeau every single week, I think they have a chance to make the conference finals, but I have more confidence in the Philadelphia 76ers. I think it's Celtics and Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Interesting. We can agree on one thing, the Boston Celtics.
Of
course.
You
said, the Boston Celtics Invitational, the entire roster is returning. Like, everybody got paid. We don't know how long this is going to last because of the luxury tax, a new ownership group. So this was just, let's pay our guys and peace out and let this new ownership deal with the cap troubles and the luxury tax of dealing with this roster. Because, like, I swear to God, everybody on this team is making $100 million. Like, it's actually ridiculous if you look at the amount of money that's spent in this starting lineup. And, like, I like Derek White, but $100+ million, like, okay. Like I know NBA money's crazy, but that's a little too crazy for me. But you got to reward your guys for getting it done. And last year in the playoffs, it was kind of easy. Even at the end, the finals, it was not like, I swear to God, the Indiana Pacers were more competitive than the
those
Dallas
games
Mavericks.
were good. Yeah,
like, they were really competitive games that went down the wire. Wow, the Dallas, I was just like, they were like barely surviving, like getting blown out every single. It was one of the most uninteresting series ever because the Dallas Mavericks were just inferior to the Celtics by a substantial amount, just based on the matchup. So, like, for me, like, Boston Celtics, like, shout out to Brad Stevens for stepping down as coach and transitioning to the GM and pretty much getting it done immediately, because that's impressive. And shout out to Joe Mazzulla for a guy that was he was in the backseat of the head coach. Like, okay, you're going to be a head coach now with the Ime Udoka scandal. And then he won an NBA championship in his second year. So, like, shout outs to both these, I would say, rookies at their current positions for getting it done and learning so fast and pretty much matching it. Like, maybe the East is just that easy because, man, they took over really, really quick and they got it done with, obviously, no LeBron in the East. The Boston Celtics have been the team in the East. So for me, that's the easy part. Like even Vegas, they have them easy. They have them at plus 160 to win the East. Like, it's a shoo-in for them right now, especially their depth on their roster. So Boston Celtics easy. And now we look at the other teams. For me, as you said, the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm out. Doc Rivers, I'm out. Never makes conference finals.
I forgot about Doc was their coach.
And they added another head coach, and Darvin Ham. Like, both those bozos sitting down there, like, they're just not good head coaches. And they're mad. I guess they're boys or whatever. They're both former NBA players, so that NBA alumni. But as a coaching, like I believe in JJ Redick, Darvin Ham. Nope. Not even a little bit. So I'm talking that coaching staff, and especially with Damian Lillard's age last year. Like, you saw some age. Like, Like, he came in out of shape. Like, he obviously had the whole situation with Portland trying to force his way out. So, obviously, that slowed him down. But Damian Lillard is not aging gracefully in the last couple of
Small
years.
guard. That's what happened.
Small guard. Yeah. And obviously, the problem with Damian Lillard, this guy is just not a great off-ball guy. Like, Steph Curry is just on another level as an off-ball guy. And if Damian Lillard learned to play off-ball, then he could get on that level. Like, he's too on-ball. And if you're playing with Giannis, you got to be able to play off-ball with Giannis Antetokounmpo dominating the post-up play. So they still got to work things out. But for me, I'm out on Doc Rivers. That's probably the biggest reason. If they had Nick Nurse, I would have different. I'd have a different rationale on picking my team. But with Doc Rivers, I could just hear excuses right there. Chris Middleton, he's getting old. It's so hard to be a head coach. Man, Doc Rivers, I'm out on you. So now we're down to the Sixers and the Knicks. And the 76ers, I like Nick Nurse. I love Tyrese Maxey. He's showing us he's a true star, getting the $200 million contract. Paul George is a Band-Aid. He's already injured.
Sure.
He's already injured right now. Like, this guy, his body just cannot sustain the NBA game. And you're talking about Joel Embiid, where they're coming up with pretty much the Kawhi Leonard rehabilitation plan, where he ain't playing back-to-backs in the regular season. Like, he's not even going to care about any NBA awards with the 65 games that you have to play. So he's just like, I want to rest. I need to be healthy for the playoffs, because Joel Embiid has been injured every single year he's been in the playoffs. Like, we have not seen Joel healthy for an entire playoff run. And based on this history, and I'm going to bet on them this year to be healthy, because they need Joel healthy in the playoffs, especially in this East right now, especially at the top level. You play with Boston or a Knicks team, you need a healthy Joel Embiid. So you got two Band-Aids and Joel Embiid and Paul George. So that's pretty much the biggest reason why I'm out, because I know Embiid is trying to lose some weight, so obviously less wear and tear on the knees. But I just feel like Joel Embiid's body I've seen this story way too much. Every single year, this guy is not healthy. And personally, Joel Embiid in the playoffs, he was pretty good against the Knicks last year, because obviously, dude, his performance. He had some really, really great games, but his field goal percentage in the regular season versus the playoffs, a substantial drop off for an MVP caliber player. So for me, Joel Embiid body is just not built for the playoffs, and Paul George, way off P, man. Like, he got in biggest moments. Paul George shrinks also. He had some really shrinking moments along with the injuries. Like, I don't know how Paul George keeps getting a pass, but this guy's always injured in some big moments.
He's always the third guy, second guy.
Second guy. But now he's the third guy. But he making first guy money. Mm-hmm. Like, they mortgaged their entire future of giving Paul George that max contract. Clearly, the Clippers did not want to be part of that experience of giving him that extra year in his contract. So they moved on from him for absolutely nothing. So that shows a lot of what the Clippers feel about Paul George. So for me, Sixers out, I'm going with the Knicks.
Wow.
I'm going with the Knicks. I'm going with the Knicks in the conference, going to the conference finals. And for
what about their health?
OG Anunoby scares me. I give you that. OG Anunoby's health, especially with the Tom Thibodeau, who runs his guys a lot. But
that's my issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. They gotta OG Anunoby does have injury concerns. Mikal Bridges has never missed a game, so I'm not really worried about him. Jalen Brunson and those guys. Karl-Anthony Towns last couple of years also been pretty injured too. So I give you that.
With Thibodeau.
Yeah. Now with Thibodeau and Mitchell Robinson, obviously you mentioned, they got some injury concerns off the bench, and losing a guy in Dante DiVincenzo who plays perfectly with Brunson. I don't love that, but I'm betting on the health on OG and Cat over Joel Embiid and Paul George. And those guys aren't their best player. It's Jalen Brunson. The thing is, Joel Embiid is their best player, and he's an injury risk. Well, I don't think Jalen Brunson is a high injury risk at all. And I feel like Karl-Anthony Towns is just going to open up the entire paint for Brunson to dominate in his post games. Because Karl-Anthony Towns, one thing he could do, he could stretch the floor. 5 out, let Brunson dominate the paint. And I feel like their players fit perfectly. And with a Thibodeau-led team, the regular season, they're going to get 50-plus wins easily, especially the way they grind their players in the regular season. And I feel like the fit of all their acquisitions this year with Bridges and Towns, these guys play on ball, these guys play off ball, and just fits around their superstar, which is Jalen Brunson. So I got the Knickerbockers versus the Boston Celtics, an East Coast showdown for them. That big city, metropolitan cities.
That's a
I know the NBA is gonna love it, but I feel like these two teams are the two best teams, and pretty much got that open path to make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Because those other teams, I think they got a little more concerns than these teams.
And let's be honest, I mean, they're both probably going to have injury concerns. The Sixers, sure, but the Knicks are probably going to have injury concerns.
Yeah, OG Anunoby really scares me. OG Anunoby really scares me.
So really what we're saying is who gets to get gentlemen swept by the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference?
I don't know about gentlemen swept because I think they match up pretty well. The Knicks. The multiple wing defenders matches up well, really, with the wings, obviously, of the Celtics. And I think Karl-Anthony Towns, Porzingis, kind of similar, both stretch five guys. Like I think they match up pretty well. I feel like they designed this team to play the Boston Celtics, especially with
which is what they got to do.
Yeah, multiple wing like perimeter defenders. So I think that'll be a terrific series if they play in the conference finals.
Yeah. If OG and Mikal just kind of like stall out Tatum and Brown, then if you're telling me Jalen Brunson versus Derek White in respect to Drew Holiday, I probably would rather have Jalen Brunson because Drew Holiday and Derek White, like they're kind of they can't get there offensively. So and Drew Holiday's been in the league for a while now. So like it's gonna be because he's kind of beaten the small guard allegations a little bit because he's just like remained healthy and he's been very good at playing his role to where he's lasted as long as he has in the league. So maybe he's still going to be able to beat Father Time. I kind of figured everybody was going to go with Boston and New York and the 76ers as some sort of combination. I will say with Boston, it pretty much is the shoe-in because they're the defending champs, and I feel like by default, you kind of always have to take the defending champs, especially if they bring back the offensive firepower that they brought back. People got to remember Kristaps is maybe not going to be healthy to the beginning of the year. Yeah. And two, it's just naturally, like, is this a situation of what we saw with Denver last year? Like, okay, you got over the hump and won the championship, like, especially with them because they've been grinding so like hard since the LeBron era of being in the East, of like trying to get that championship, and now they got it. It's like, is there going to be a natural place of complacency? Because there's going to be teams that are hungry that want to get that spot. So that would be one thing I have to worry about. But like I said, if I'm placing money on it, I probably would pick Boston. But just to change it up, I'm very high on the 76ers. And this is, of course, if you talk about health with any of these teams, like, of course, that's kind of going to make your argument a little bit less favorable because health is always an issue with the Sixers and is a trend. But assuming they're healthy, and I think Paul George is like hyperextension, so he might be out for the first maybe couple weeks or something like that of the season. And I think they should manage it fine. I do like the plan of not playing Embiid on back-to-backs because I think the team is a little bit more deeper. Tyrese Maxey to me, I think Tyrese Maxey to me is going to be the guy who, if he's able to get to like right under the, like, say for instance with all the all NBA like spots, if he's like playing as a 16th, 17th best player in the league range, then the sky's the limit for this team. Because I think Paul George, yeah, of course in the playoffs he doesn't show up. Of course he has a tendency to get hurt. But I do think if he does assume the number 3 role, he's just a way better Tobias Harris. And I think he's going to be able to make clutch shots, and as the number 3, you're not really, and it's not to say he's not going to have plays ran for him, but like you're not really necessarily the guy that's going to be the go-to. Like the ball's going to go to Embiid, and then Embiid's going to kick out to Maxey, and maybe Maxey hits George. So if George can accept that 3 role and play a true 3-and-D, style of what he normally does, I think he could be very, very beneficial. Also, their draft pick this past year, McCain, like shot 41% at Duke. He's another guy that's going to be able to spell Tyrese Maxey. Now, is he the playmaker? I think Tyrese Maxey is. No, I don't. But I think he's a nice, spot up 3. Caleb Martin, playoff tested, another 3-and-D wing, a guy that's going to bother Tatum and Brown if they end up matching up with them. Bother maybe Mikal or OG if he matches up with them. That's another great addition. I like Kelly Oubre. He can make threes and bring the fight. I also love that Eric Gordon's another guy who can shoot. Nice. I mean, I kind of feel
he's just a sniper.
He's part of any package that Daryl Morey is on. So, like, if Daryl Morey was playing, if he was in China with another team or something, he's going to pick Eric Gordon up and put him on his team because that's just what he does. Like, he's always going to have Eric Gordon on his team. So, he's just another guy that's going to shoot. Reggie Jackson, another guy in bunches. Like, he's not going to start. But if he could win you a game 4 just getting 15, 18 points off the bench. And there's one other guy I'm forgetting.
Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond's another backup big.
Huge acquisition, especially with Joel sitting out back to back. You got a guy in Drummond who can start.
Yeah.
And Zhu and I are very familiar with how formidable he can actually be.
Yeah, this guy gets 10 rebounds in 10 minutes.
Yeah. He's a guy that's going to be able to provide a little bit of rest for Embiid, like I said, on those back-to-backs. So make sure I'm not missing anybody. But so to me, I think they have what Daryl Morey wants in a team, is a team that is centered around, like in his Houston days, he had James Harden, a bunch of shooters. Like that can be successful, but I also think the shooters that he got now are a little bit taller, bigger wings. So, I think Embiid, if he's healthy and he's in a space where come playoff time, he could be on the floor, I think he has a chance. And two, to my point about, attributing it to Boston, like it's just sometimes when you win it, it's like, okay, now we can relax. And I don't know how much of the Boston fabric is. I know the franchise is, I guess one of the best in the NBA, but how much of the players are going to be like, okay, let's two-peat, let's three-peat. I don't know how much of that is in them. So, I'm looking at 76ers as being a force to get to the conference finals. And this is another team that I was high on last year, but I may be a year early, and I may still be a year early on them, and it's Orlando. I really think last year, if they would have got matched up with Boston, they would have gave them hell. Like, people really sleep on how massive this team is and how many stars they have that are ascending. I think the biggest thing with them last year and why they were limited was Franz, for some weird reason, did not shoot well from three.
Can't shoot threes.
He just regressed. Like, the year before that, he was like 34, 35. Like, he wasn't – and 34, 35 isn't a sniper, but it's respectable to where other teams have to respect it. So, he was in the 28% range. So, to me, I think one of the biggest things that they did, obviously getting KCP, but just going through their lineup and their top 8, like, this is their starting backcourt is going to be probably Suggs and KCP. They're both between 6'5", 6'6". Their front court, the shortest guy is 6'10". Like, and people always look at when they're trying to build a team. Of course, I know the rave and, or not rave, but rage with Steph Curry being a shooter. Now, bear in mind, he's one of the best. He is the best shooter ever. Yeah. So you kind of can't really use him as a blueprint. Like, yes, you want a team full of shooters, but it's hard to get a team full of Steph Currys. But if you can't get a team that's full of shooters, you need to have a team that's going to be dogs defensively. And I love how all of the pieces on the team mesh. Like, Suggs has accepted, even though he was a top 10 pick, he's accepted, hey, I'm a defensive guard that can make an open shot and distribute. So he knows his role, which I love.
He's Marcus Smart.
KCP, he knows his role. He's shooting threes. He knows he's a 3-and-D guy. He's not going to freaking try to be a creator, want to do different things. He did it in Denver and he did it in LA. And kind of crazy, like, KCP has been a part of championship teams, so he has championship DNA. You look at the wings, like Paolo, same thing with Tyrese Maxey. They're on the track of, like, if they start hitting their stride, they can be low-end fringe NBA, all NBA type guys. Franz, I expect to shoot a little bit better. I don't think 28% is who he truly is. Wendell Carter's a nice stretch three, big. Jonathan Isaac, huge defensive presence that I love. If he can stay healthy and not have, like, broken knees every 5 seconds, he's nice. Anthony Black, the guy that got last year from Arkansas, another 6'7" wing that can distribute. He can be a guy off the bench that spells Paolo as the main ball distributor. You got Cole Anthony, you know what he's gonna get with him. He's gonna score points. And then Gary Harris, they kind of have guys that fit the cog. I think, to me, that the team's identity needs to be, we're a team that's going to bother you and give you hell. And I think with Jalen Suggs setting the tone of being a defensive force, I think they can bother a lot of teams. And to me, I'm kind of always looking at, like, okay, who are teams that are, like, got the right combination of a star, which you have in Paolo, and then you kind of have the hunger of, like, okay, we haven't really done anything yet, and we need to make a statement. So it's like Boston's going to be, for most people's money, that one team is in the conference finals. But, I mean, if the injury bug hits the 76ers and Knicks, then there's a possibility come around March, you're looking at maybe a couple guys sitting on the bench, a couple guys that are out for the season or something like that. Orlando could come in and maybe make a statement, because most of my faith in why they can is Suggs being that force, Paolo taking a step, and Franz. This 28% is crazy. Like, I thought he was shooting like low 30s. I was looking at that, I was like, 28% he was a bad shooter. So it's like maybe he just had a bad year, and hopefully that gets to like 33, 34 again, and then it's like, okay, now we have a guy, because you get guys that's shooting around Paolo, it's over. Like, we know kids can shoot, but we need somebody that's going to take a jump, because it's like, I mean, They're not Boston because Boston kept getting to the conference finals, so they're a little different, and they kept losing to LeBron or whatever. But like, they kind of seem like the younger version of that, where they got guys who was like, now they don't have two guys like Tatum and Brown, but they have one guy who's maybe like Tatum and
Oh yeah, I put Paolo already there.
Paolo's like very similar.
Somebody can get maybe Jaylen Brown light, and I don't even think they have a guy that can maybe get Jaylen Brown light because he's a dog, but. That's the team that I like, that they can maybe ascend and like, they're hungry enough for it. Because the East is your stack.
Yeah.
It's stacked.
Yeah.
Like the Bucks, dude. And it kind of made me, like, when I was writing stuff down, I was like, God, I don't want to leave the Bucks out because I know it's part of it because Chris Middleton's so hurt. But Giannis is like, there's no matchup for Giannis. And I think I hate it for Giannis because he's just been hurt. If he's been healthy, he's winning one of these championships. He's winning. Yeah. People have been they've been very fortunate he's been hurt in the playoffs. When Jimmy Butler was running around like a top dog, Giannis was hurt for half of the series. So pipe down, Jimmy Butler. When like they lost last year, Giannis was hurt. Damian was doing it by himself. If Giannis had been healthy, he would have been in the finals. He's proven it. Nobody can match up with him. So it's like, I get it. Like and it's hard for me to give Giannis that because it's like Damian is getting older. Chris is just shot. Like that. Who else is on that team? So it's basically him by himself. But Giannis has been hurt. Nobody brings that up ever. They just say, "Well, he's just not getting to the."
Because they won.
Can we revisit it and remember what happened? Like he wasn't in that playoff. He came back for Game 5, and Jimmy Butler won. Like it's a lot of like misremembering because people just want to use the macro and be like, "Well, they're just done." Like Giannis hadn't been. Well, it's like, well, he's been hurt. So it's like it kind of sucks, and it's like it's hard for me to then pick him because it's like you really gonna pick Giannis. And aging Damian and Chris Middleton had like how many surgeries on his knee? So
yeah,
that's why with the East, it's like if everybody really is healthy, it's gonna be a bloodbath. It's gonna be a bloodbath.
It is.
Like I think if everybody stays healthy.
I think the Magic and the Cavs are going to kind of be on the same tier. I mean, if everyone stays healthy, I know the Magic probably are.
I think they're
cause more problems. They're a better defensive team. But the Cavs. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who tries to carry? Donovan Mitchell carries,
and that's the problem.
Season.
Right? I don't like the 6'3".
Yeah, because his complementary players are two bigs that can't shoot.
And Darius Garland, who needs the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, like
they need to trade Darius or Jonathan for like a big wing that's like good. I don't know who that would be, but like the two small guards is just who?
Brandon Ingram. He's really the biggest trade candidate.
Yeah, he wants $200 million. Nobody.
I know, but he's the biggest trade candidate probably.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, Pelicans really wanted to trade him, but they couldn't get anything for him this offseason. So
right.
And that's telling, considering his talent, and like
which I don't know.
Nobody wants Brandon Ingram. Like that's weird. I mean,
I don't know if you want to jump into the West on that, but I mean the Pelicans. That's kind of the reason why I'm out on them this year. I mean they overperformed last year. I mean they played really well. Dealt with some injuries, but what they're going to do with BI, I think is probably going to not blow up the team, but their chances at making a conference finals in a West that is very top heavy with new and young teams, I can't put them in there. I mean, I'm not shooing them in like the Celtics, but I'm pretty confident putting the Thunder in that Western Conference Finals.
For sure.
I mean, the additions of Hartenstein, I talked about him with the Knicks and how big of a loss that was for them. The Caruso addition, Zoo, was just absolutely the cherry on top for a team that now likely has two top 3 or 4 perimeter defenders with him and Lou Dort. Shai Gilgeous, I think their complete success is going to depend on it. Can Chet stay healthy, and can he take a step? Maybe be more of a prolific scorer for them. Jalen Williams, same thing, consistency from last year. But can Shai develop his 3-point shot at all this year? I mean, I think that's really what we all wanted to see. We know what he can do in the paint. We know what he can do from the mid-range. Can he develop the 3-point shot for them to take it to the next level? But I think they improved so well defensively that it's not even going to really matter if Shai hasn't developed a 3-point shot. I think, I don't know. I'm really excited to watch him play. I know they're the TikTok team and they're kind of annoying. Apparently the Bulls are the TikTok team now too, Zoo. And I know we're not too happy about that, but the Thunder does not take away from the fact that they have a ton of talent. Sam Presti has done another magnificent job in the offseason. I'm really excited to watch him play. But on the other end, man, you look at some of these teams in the West. I mean, the Mavs didn't really change much. I know they got Clay. I don't want to pair him in with the Chris Middleton and all that, but he's aging, definitely probably completely plateaued and might be on the downward turn of his career. You know, you look at the Nuggets, they didn't make any changes, and depth was their issue last year, and they lost KCP. I mean, you know, that's just such a huge loss, in my opinion, because that's literally why we weren't as high on the Nuggets in the playoffs last year, was their depth issues. The T-Wolves are interesting because it really comes down to the T-Wolves, the Suns, if you want to buy into them. There's another team that stayed stagnant.
No, they got a point guard.
Okay, come on, man.
Tyus Jones. I don't know how they got Tyus Jones for no money. But that's a huge addition.
One of the best backup point guards in the league, and he can lead a team. He did it for Ja. He's done it. Where was he, Zoo? Was he
Washington?
Washington. He was dying in Washington.
He was dying. Yeah, he got saved, man, last second. But, you know, they added Tyus Jones. You know, is that going to put them up in the Western Conference Finals? It could if they stay healthy. But they don't have – here's another issue, though, Zoo. They don't have the depth.
None.
Absolutely no depth. And, you know, and then you come down to the Kings. I mean, is DeMar DeRozan's addition and giving a veteran presence interesting? I would consider them – I would put them, Sean, in the same category that you were just putting the Magic.
Yeah,
Not
they're like a bubbling.
But they could be the bubbling team this year a little bit, especially with, I think, the Pelicans taking a step back depending on the BI situation.
Yeah.
But I am confident in picking the T-Wolves. I'm going to put the T-Wolves in there with the Thunder. Both the two young teams from last year coming back in. I know it's probably the chalk pick, but I think this Dante DiVincenzo, I think he is pissed that he got traded from his buddies.
We saw,
yeah, exactly. We literally saw it, and so I think it's gonna fuel him this year to just kind of show up and show out, and get paid eventually. And yeah, man, I just love Anthony Edwards. You got to bet on the stars, man. Zoo's always about the superstars. Rudy Gobert ain't no superstar, but he is on one end of the court, man. So, that's what they need. Can Naz Reid step up? Can some of these other supporting players truly complement Anthony Edwards? And Mike Conley's situation is also something to consider as well with his age. So I'm not confident putting the T-Wolves in there, but I'm not confident with the Suns. The Kings are the only one that's enticing me a little bit. The Mavericks too, but I think I don't know. The West is difficult for me this year to predict, just because there's been enough movement to keep considerations with some new teams, but also the Nuggets. They're not the Bucks situation for me on the East side, but they haven't done anything, so I can't confidently put them in there.
Yeah, for me, like this West it's wide open.
It's gonna be brutal.
We might see two new teams again in the conference finals this year.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the significant additions and losses of this offseason. As you mentioned, the Denver Nuggets, I love my man Jokic, but man, all they do is lose starters. Like that's what's happened. They just lose key figures every single year. KCP, they didn't get any asset for him. Just no assets.
No.
And all their young players, like they need to develop and they need to win a championship right now, because you're paying Jamal Murray big money, Jokic big money. Aaron Gordon's contract is coming up and he wants big money. So like right now they're in win now mode, but based on the acquisitions they've done, they just doesn't seem like they're all in. Like they don't want to pay the luxury tax. Like this ownership group just doesn't seem to want to go all in right now and bet on, like they got a transcendent player in Jokic right now. I think they're just pretty content that they got that one championship that 1 year. So like I'm not sure what the Nuggets are doing in their offseason. Like Russell Westbrook is kind of interesting.
Oh, come on. He ain't the difference maker.
I'm telling you.
He's finishing on the Clippers, Zoo.
No, okay, Russell's low-key kind of good for the Clippers based on his contract.
Okay, sure.
You got to look at the contract. We ain't paying him $25 million.
I know.
They're paying him low veteran money right now to play for this roster. And I feel like Jokic, especially Russ, they need to put Russ off ball and just lob dunks and put him in that dunker spot with Jokic.
That's Aaron Gordon's spot.
I know.
Good luck with that.
When Aaron Gordon's out, this guy go in there in the dunker
spot. On, man.
You're wishing on a star.
Right now,
you're asking at straws.
That's the thing. There's so significant addition.
He's going to be waving off Jokic. That's what he's going to be doing. That's what he's going to be doing. And it's going to pitch you off. And then you're going to say trade his ass.
No. Jokic wanted Russ for some reason. It's curious to me why he wanted Russ.
Yeah.
But it's better than nothing, because them at the guard position after losing KCP, it was like Christian Braun. I'm sorry, man. That guy's a role player. He can't be playing heavy minutes.
Barely.
Like you cannot have Christian Braun playing heavy minutes.
No.
Like he's a definition of a role player that can see 10 to 15 good minutes in the playoffs. So pretty much they got Russ for that open guard position. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, the Nuggets making back to the conference finals, especially losing KCP. And last year, obviously, I believed in them a lot, but they lost their starters and they have to rely on young guys. And Mike Malone just doesn't use young guys at all. Like that's the only thing. Like Mike Malone doesn't like using his young guys, so not really developing them. So we'll see what they do this offseason with the young guys, see if they get any better and get some real role players for this roster. Because right now they're missing a lot right now. So Denver, I'm leaning towards a no for Denver right now. I'm leaning towards a no. For me right now, the teams I'm obviously looking at, Oklahoma City, obviously that's the obvious one. I would say that most people agree that they're on that upward trajectory. And they got the veteran role players that fit the offensive scheme perfectly and defensive scheme, where they're going to have elite perimeter defenders everywhere, along with Chet Holmgren being a beast of a rim protector. So all their pieces fit. They fit the timeline. They're in win now mode. Like they unloaded the chips. We're going to go win now right now. Obviously, giving Hartenstein $80+ million. Like you don't give $80+ million to Hartenstein unless you're all in right now. Pretty much ramp up the defense and rebounding that they were sorely lacking last year. Like outside of Chet, like that backup, like the other Jalen Williams. I'm sorry, that guy ain't true like rotation backup center for a championship worthy team. So they got Hartenstein in there, and they could have different types of lineups going big or going small depending on what they want to do. So I do like OKC this year. I think SGA this year, like he's gonna make that run for MVP again. Like SGA is going for that MVP again this year. So I feel like they're going to have an extremely good record. So they're going to have home court advantage throughout the playoffs. The other team, I know you mentioned Minnesota. I am out of Minnesota because you know my hatred of Julius Randle. I think he's one of the worst playoff performances I've ever seen in my entire life. Black hole, lefty, low field goal percentage for a big that likes shooting mid-range jump shots and isolation basketball. I just don't think like exactly. I don't think it's winning basketball for a guy like Julius Randle. And I just don't know how he fits with Ant. Like, I just don't know how that fit works. So I can't see the fit right now. Obviously, Ant last year had a career year and they beat the Nuggets, but I think Karl-Anthony Towns is a huge component of that. And losing him and going down to Randle, I think that's a downgrade, even though they got more cap flexibility. And David Chesel's a great role player. But for me, I'm out on the Timberwolves because of Julius Randle as being their big addition in that trade. So I am out on the Timberwolves. One team I'm really, really curious about is the Memphis Grizzlies. But the thing, like Ja is just always injured. Like he's already injured in the preseason already. He had a turned ankle. I think the team, like I know you guys hate on Zach Edey. I'm big on Zach Edey. I think that's a terrific fit with that team, especially losing Steven Adams as that big brick building, that big strong guy that just fits perfectly with the skinny Jaren Jackson, more of a finesse guy, and Zach Edey is just full brute force 7'4", just a brick building down there. So I feel like that fit and that roster just fits perfectly. But yeah, Ja's play style, very reminiscent of Derrick Rose and his athleticism and just wanting to dunk on everybody. And I just feel like his play style is he's just bound to get injured, just the way he plays. So I really like the Memphis Grizzlies having a massive bounce back here, especially they're still young. Like this is an up and coming team, but for me, that Ja injury risk and his play style is already injured in the preseason. I'm out on the Grizzlies. The Phoenix Suns, man. I'm really enticed about the Phoenix Suns this year. Tyus Jones and Mike Budenholzer. I know. I'm
getting Clippers vibes here.
I know. Okay.
That is actually good. That's actually a good comparison.
Yeah. Mike Budenholzer, I think, is an upgrade over Frank Vogel in the offensive end.
Yes.
Offensive end, like Frank Vogel in offense, I don't even know what he ran last year. Like, I actually don't know what they ran. They just ran these ISO balls. Like, I don't know what they were running.
I think it's because of the players. I think it's because of the players, man.
No.
I do. Frank Vogel won a championship with LA. He can coach.
No. He can coach defense. Offensively, it was just LeBron being a beast. It was just LeBron and AD running pick and rolls and hitting open three-point shooters. It doesn't take a genius to run that LeBron offense because everybody knows what a LeBron offense is. Yeah. Give him the ball and drive in and kick out to his shooters, man. Like, it's pretty easy to run a LeBron James offense. But
pretty easy to run a Giannis offense, too, like Budenholzer did.
Okay, no, it's not that easy. You gotta hide his weaknesses. You gotta hide his weaknesses, and I feel like this year, I feel like this year with Budenholzer and Tyus Jones, one of my favorite players, Tyus Jones, who the Grizzlies desperately needed last year.
Yes,
this guy is a true point guard that will run that offense, and I feel like Budenholzer is the coach that can implement an offense that is a little more creative than Frank Vogel. Obviously, my big thing I'm really, really nervous about is Kevin Durant's 36-year-old body, which makes me real, real nervous.
And Bradley Beal's 36-year-old
knees. Bradley Beal just sucks. Like, I like Grayson Allen more as a spot-up shooter.
No, that's just
betting on healthy KD with Devin Booker and Tyus Jones? Come on.
Tyus Jones.
It's a travesty.
Tyus Jones is going to change this team.
This is literally perfect alignment to Russell Westbrook addition to the Clippers.
No. It's a little
no, Zoo. I'm not saying I'm saying how you're saying it.
How I'm saying it?
Yeah, the point guard addition is going to put them over the top. They're going to be good now with all their wing players, Like that was literally the Clippers.
Who's player number 5, 6, 7, and 8 for the Suns? I'm trying to figure it out.
Grayson Allen, that's it.
Dude, Grayson Allen.
I love Grayson Allen.
He shot 40% from three last year, man.
But Zoo, you just named 5 players. That's a starting 5. Maybe I don't know. You throw who's their center?
I know Nurkic.
Yusuf Nurkic. I don't know.
I know Yusuf Nurkic. I'm not the biggest fan of Nurk, but
he hasn't played 40 games.
He hasn't played average center. Okay, they got some role players. They got Royce O'Neal, a nice 3-and-D guy. Dude, Royce O'Neal's a nice 3-and-D guy. Josh Okogie, 3-and-D guys. Like, you got some bench guys. Like, I don't care. This team's gonna run.
The Bulls have a better bench than the Suns do. They might.
They might, for real. They might.
They actually might.
They might. If you pull up their roster
if they did not have Bradley Beal, but instead they had like Ayo Dosunmu or even Patrick Williams, just bodies. They need. There's no way that Grayson Allen, Tyus Jones can play like 45, 46 minutes a game for 82 games and then get good enough seeding to get solid matchups. That's what I'm concerned about. I just don't see it. Their longevity is just, it's very risky. I think they're the riskiest team in the West.
You think the riskiest team in the West?
Yeah.
That's a contender-ish type
team.
There's
a contender, yeah.
Contender-ish team?
Yes.
Not like, because the riskiest team probably
is like the ceiling is high, but their floor is very low. It's just like
I don't know. I'm just saying, if KD healthy, I think they can make it to the conference finals.
Well, yeah, it's Kevin Durant.
Because I'm telling you, the Tyus Jones pickup is huge. Most underrated move of the offseason.
I like Tyus Jones for sure. He's a good point guard. He's like a starter level point guard. He's not a bench guy.
Yeah.
So I still
remember those days when the Grizzlies had Ja out. Tyus Jones went in and the record did not change. And you saw what happened last year when Tyus was not the backup point guard. Ja was out, and they were horrendous.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's one of those guys where his stats might not be the most sexiest, but his impact on a game is higher than his numbers. So I'm going with the Phoenix Suns, even though I don't love that because obviously it's a high variance team because I'm just not a Bradley Beal. I don't like Bradley Beal at all.
Yeah.
Like Devin Booker, KD, Tyus Jones, and even Nurk at the center. He's all right. And the bench guys with Grayson Allen. But yeah, Bradley Beal's the one thing I'm like, I wish they did not trade for this guy.
Yeah.
I really wish they did not trade this guy. I'd rather have 2 role players than this guy. They could like have a rebounder, have like a
2 more wings.
Guy. Yeah,
wing type players.
Just have some role players to complement.
I will say Drummond would have been a great signing for that team. Mm-hmm. Andre Drummond could have been great.
Yeah.
They could have made some certain moves.
For sure.
A lot of that probably with Bill too was like Booker and Durant being like, okay, we want another dude like us that's in our ilk. So that's probably more so of that. And the owner got wind of that, and the owner just was impulsive and did that. So y'all know how I feel about Durant. And
you got the Suns in there, Zoo.
Yeah, I got the Suns.
You got the Thunder?
Suns and Thunder. I heavily considered the Lakers.
Really?
Heavily considered. Yeah, absolutely. I think JJ Redick I'm telling you
I
right
gotta see it first.
I think JJ Redick is going to be a substantial upgrade over Darvin Ham.
Yes, of course.
We'll see if it plays out, but just based on how he talks, his intelligence, and his ability to get along with being a former player who has the respect of NBA players and getting along with their best player, and he just looks highly educated.
Let me ask you
all these other former basketball players, it just gets the job because I guess they have good connections.
Any team that LeBron has been on and they've made a coaching change, did you make a decision on that team based on the coach that they signed? Because the coach with LeBron, you even said it yourself, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the offensive scheme. Yeah,
unless it's Ty Lue.
But so is JJ Redick a defensive mastermind? I mean, that's
that's the thing. I just think having more creativity in there and having like a starting lineup where they know what they're doing. Because last year, Darvin Ham would just go in random lineups every single game, especially in the regular season, just testing different lineups and he just didn't seem to have a clue what he was doing. And I 100% agree that he lost the players. Like LeBron was out on Darvin Ham. He was rolling his eyes and like, what's this guy running? Like pretty much he lost the respect of the roster. And I feel like JJ Redick is a substantial upgrade over Darvin Ham. So because on paper, that Lakers team is a good team. And they played the Nuggets extremely tough. Every single game were a 50-50 coin flip.
It was a good series.
Yeah, it was a terrific series. And like every game I went down the wire, they just couldn't execute at the end. And Jamal Murray hit 2 game winners. So
I also think he'll play some of their younger draft picks too, like Max Christie, like Dalton Connect's going to play. Like they got some younger, like Max Lewis. They got some wings that are kind of really athletic and can shoot and jump and stuff. So like he might be more lenient with letting them go out there and play and make mistakes, so that can make them more intriguing. So then come March or April, if they do make the playoffs, they'll be ready and tested. And Jalen Hood-Schifino's back, so he's been injured a lot. And he's another big guard. So if he can come along and JJ can maybe use his magic touch, maybe he can help Hood-Schifino become more of a better point guard for them and some depth pieces, a depth piece for them. But I'm with you guys, or with people. OKC and the Timberwolves are my 2 teams. OKC just seem like they hit every check mark that you have on your to-do list for the offseason. They hit it all. And like I said, Alex Caruso was just like, this is being greedy. This is being greedy. So now it's just, you kind of just have everything you want within the team, which in turn, it means a lot of pressure because I think a lot of people are on that OKC bandwagon. So they kind of got to come out here and deliver. And if Shea, plays to his MVP level, they definitely could be in the conference finals. Because they also played, I think it was Dallas in that series. They played them very tough. If it weren't for that, what PJ Washington shot in the corner, they could have been in the conference finals.
Yeah, true.
They were there. So, and Timberwolves, Julius Randle is concerned because he's just never shown that he's been a part of a team that's winning. Like I said before, when the trade happened, I'm hoping because it's a contract year, he kind of has an epiphany of like, okay, if I want to stay and extend my stay in the NBA, I start playing in a team concept where I can still score and be beneficial to a team, but not be a black hole. I can be more of a guy who keeps the ball moving because, like I said, he's basically in his 30s almost, and it's kind of a situation like, this is the crossroads. What do I want to be? I'm in a perfect situation. I'm in a team that just made the conference finals. I need to adjust my game so I can last longer in the NBA and maybe contribute to win the championship if that's what his goal is. So if his goal is to get another contract, then maybe they just deal him at the trade deadline, and then they just get whatever they can for him. But he needs to make an adjustment if they want to win. But I still don't think that hinders it because I'm just a fan of Ant-Man and Naj Reid and a bunch of guys that they got in Rob Dillingham. And like I said, Dillingham and Terrence Shannon might be the 2 biggest impact rookies for their team. Like I think Terrence Shannon could definitely come in and score in bunches, and I think Rob is a very good creator that can spell for Anthony and things like that. Y'all know, everybody else in the West, like I could hear a conversation about the Kings because DeMar DeRozan is going to be a pretty good addition for them. Like, yeah, he's not the 3-point guy, but I think just as a big wing that could score, that's just another addition to what you already have with De'Aaron. I love Keegan Murray. Davion Mitchell's a minutes off the bench. Like,
he took a step. Keegan,
yeah, he's a guy who could sneakily be like, well, he's averaging 25 now. Like, why is he averaging that now? What's going on? Like, he could be a sneaky guy that can do that because he's got a very quick release, and defensively we know what he is, but it doesn't matter. He could score.
I think he'll be the one that benefits the most from DeMar, purely from just like a veteran presence and being around him. He'll probably pick up a lot of new game. I think you're going to see him try and start to mimic some of the mid range that you see from DeMar.
My question though is DeMar DeRozan obviously is a heavy ISO guy, so he's not really a ball movement like off the ball guy. Well, the Sacramento Kings, they run that motion offense. Obviously, Mike Brown took it from the Golden State Warriors and implemented his own style with the Sacramento Kings. So it's a very off ball movement, like three-point shots, a lot of movement. Domantas Sabonis passing it to cutters and stuff. So I'm curious to see how DeMar adjusts his game to that Sacramento offense, because on the Chicago Bulls, he was just a heavy ISO guy going one-on-one, hitting tough shots. And obviously, you could do that in the clutch. But I feel like that motion offense in Sacramento is what made them unique and made them extremely successful a couple of years back when they made that played against the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs. So we'll see how he adjusts his game to that, because DeMar's never been a movement guy. He's just
I think DeMar did that because he probably felt he was the best player on the Bulls.
No, for the Bulls offense, half-court offense was a disaster. Absolute disaster.
Because they didn't have a point guard. They never
when Lonzo was out, like the offense was just one-on-one, high pick and roll, and that's pretty.
Especially with Zach being hurt last year, DeMar definitely was probably more ISO because he's like, who else? I'm gonna pass the ball to whoever. I think with the Kings, I think DeMar's smart enough to know with the Kings, you need to play. If he has to play in their system. He has to adjust his game to that system, because that's really good.
You know what I envision? I envision him with you talking about the motion offense and 3-pointers. I think they work him cutting from block to elbow free throw line for like a drop pass, turnaround fadeaways all day. That's gonna be his motion. Is going to be within the free throw up to the elbow, maybe the edge of the 3-point line. I think they're just going to kind of run him back and forth up zigzags, and they're going to get him open for the mid-range and be like, hey, we don't need your 3-point shooting. Please don't shoot threes. I know you make like 1 out of every 2.
He'll make a clutch 3, baby, but
and that was the other point. I think they also wanted a guy that they can give the ball in a clutch situation. De'Aaron's a clutch player, but if you need if you're playing a good defensive team and he's not going to be able to get to the paint that easily, you need a guy that you can give the ball to and he can create his own shot, and that's definitely what DeMar DeRozan can do. So
they gotta, I like that a lot. I think he definitely could give them leadership, because the team is kind of still sort of young. So like
he's very young. Outside of like Sabonis, it's like a bunch of guys on rookie contracts, especially.
They definitely could benefit from DeRozan being a leader on that team. So they're one team that's intriguing. We all know who the bottom teams are. Lakers, Zhu mentioned them. I need to see JJ. Like, I know he's getting a lot of praise, and he was on a podcast and talk intelligently. But like, this is, it's hard for me to. He listen. In terms of the space of where your first take and his podcast and you're in interviews, he is very good at that. He can talk a big game, but it's just hard for me. I mean, the guy hasn't been in any high level of coaching. Like, I got to see it. So that's why it's scary. Like you say, if you want to make a bet or take a leap of faith, he probably can make it work because he sounds like he knows what he's doing. But like I said, it's, I love LeBron, but LeBron always loves his coach when he's first hired. It only takes a couple of times of like, you irritate him to being like, okay, let's figure it out. Ty Lue's the only guy him and Eric are the only 2 guys that kind of figured out like, okay, I'm going to be able to butt back at LeBron, and LeBron kind of strangely like respected it. So we'll see with JJ. Sounds good now. But also, like, I don't know what to do, to your point with Memphis, because it's like Ja being injured does kind of make me hesitant. But like, they got a lot of little like good pieces on their team. Like I said, I'm not as high on Edie, but if he maybe comes in and plays his role, that's a nice plus. You got Desmond Bane. Like, I think Gigi Jackson's on the verge of being a really high level starter.
Yep, Gigi Jackson.
Like, you got pieces on that team where I'm not saying they could be a conference finals team, but it's not shocking if they're the number 3 seed going into like February or like right before the All-Star break, because they have been a team that's been in the playoffs and been battle tested. So it's not a team that's like on the rise like Orlando, who hadn't really been high up in places. Like, they've been in battles with Golden State. They've been in battles with the Lakers. They've been in battles with other teams. So like, if Ja stays healthy and Gigi takes a step and other guys come along, like, Jaren Jackson, like, that's a sneaky team that could do some stuff. But that's another wait and see, because if Ja's going to be, rolling his ankle in the first week of the season, then I'm out on it, because that's basically the head to the snake.
I got to mention Brandon Clark coming back from injuries.
So he did get hurt.
Years ago. So these are like significant injuries that I still remember that
I forgot about
the Lakers. They lost like all their players to injuries, and they were still pretty competitive with the Lakers. So all these guys.
Luke Kennard, ain't he on that team too?
Yeah, Luke Kennard's on the roster. They got like a lot of good complementary role players, especially with
Zhu,
Jackson Clark, Santi Aldama. They got a lot of good role players,
and they're all better than Christian Bronze and Royce O'Neal's.
Yeah, legitimately. Like they got a real bench. They got a real bench.
Royce O'Neal. Oh my God!
You said Royce O'Neal, man. That's what set me over.
He was. Remember, he's always been like he's the trade darling. Where like if at the trade deadline you could get him for like a second round pick.
Like, his name always gets mentioned. It's like his name always gets mentioned. But really quick on the Suns, like I am never big on any team that Durant is on post Golden State. I'm just not buying it. It's just easy to like get involved and get really hyped up because it's Durant. But like Zhu even said, like I forgot because I always think he's just mid 30s or early 30s, but
he's old.
He's 36. So it's like we gotta like it's get to a point where like we gotta just stop thinking because Durant's just so good that they're gonna be good. Like he's just not. He's a complimentary piece. That's what he is. His game, his stats are high.
He's the greatest compliment of all time.
He's the best compliment of all time.
But he can be a superstar, but not for a winning purpose. He's the greatest complimentary finals performer of all time.
Yeah, Devin Booker needs to be that guy.
Devin Booker needs to be.
And I think like this year he could focus more on scoring and being a 2 instead of trying to be a James Harden. Like that's what they try to force him. He's not a James. He's not a point guard. Like it's okay. Like he's a definition of a 2. And I feel like he could focus that on this year instead of trying to be this guy that think about shooting and think about creating for his teammates. And I feel like it just assigns better roles to the roster and under a new coach, as I mentioned. So I feel like that's the biggest thing. People know their roles better this year on the Phoenix Suns relative to last year.
I also think it's like I don't know how many people with the Suns too. I don't know how many of those guys, and it's hard to even assess this because I'm not in the locker room and I don't talk to these guys, but it's like Cam Durant seems very fine with just scoring a lot of points. I don't think it's the hunger of I need to be a champion. Yeah, he already
won.
Yeah, like he's already won, and I think and I think in his head he was like, dude, like realize I won 2 NBA finals, and I know y'all love Steph Curry, but Steph Curry is not in that LeBron that people try to put him in that LeBron conversation without me being there. Because Steph would not even be close to LeBron if he didn't have those 2 championships. And I think Durant in his head's like, I did that. So like in his head, finals I think because he left, it's like, put it this way. I don't think I know people that's Kevin Durant fans want him to prove he can win somewhere else, but I don't think it's that important to Durant. And I hate saying that to prove it because he's already won it. And like, I don't know I think D-Book wants to win, and I know how y'all feel about Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's a tough one.
Bradley Beal, man, he's
a tough one. I think he does want to win, but it's just like he'd want to do it on his own terms, and it just didn't work in Washington. And hopefully, he can compliment in Phoenix. But I'm out on trying to believe Durant's going to win that, and nobody else in the West really gives me any type of they coming out of nowhere except for Memphis. So I agree. Like I still think it's OKC. I still think it's Minnesota. Could Jokic maybe just drag Denver? But I don't know if y'all watched Jamal Murray during the freaking.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
He looked like he was just either out of shape or didn't care.
I think it was just partying all summer and just like, I'll play the Olympics.
Yeah, like he's like, I'm just going to get this out the way. Yeah, it did look good. Like Shea still looked on point. Even Dylan Brooks, like he was having more.
Oh, he was balling. He was one of their best players.
Dylan Brooks.
That's one team that's interesting. Is Houston. Like they're still super young. Like, but they would be there if they get in the playoffs, which they could possibly do this year. They could be a frisky out because they just got so much young talent. It's just it's all about kind of figuring out who's like their 5 of like who's their guys and then the bench guys and stuff because they just got.
They're an earlier stage version of what the Thunder were. I mean, that's what they're going for, right? They're kind of going for that.
And their coach is really good. Ime. He's really good.
Oh yeah, Ime Udoka is definitely an elite coach.